In this podcast episode, Ben Shapiro discusses the massive debate in Congress over the passage of a $95 billion bill that provides support to Ukraine, Israel, and humanitarian aid for conflict zones. The bill passed with a split vote in the Senate, with Republicans divided on their support for the bill. Shapiro highlights the various issues with the bill, including the allocation of $10 billion in humanitarian aid for Palestinians in Gaza, which raises concerns about funding potentially going to terrorist groups. Shapiro delves into the broader foreign policy goals of the United States in Ukraine, questioning the purpose of the aid and the lack of clarity on the goals of the aid. He outlines different positions within the Republican Party regarding Ukraine, ranging from isolationism to supporting Ukraine against Russian aggression. Shapiro emphasizes the importance of understanding the goals of foreign policy and the need for clarity in decision-making. He discusses the different positions on Ukraine, including preventing a full Russian takeover, allowing Ukraine to decide the off-ramp, or supporting Russia's control over Ukraine. He criticizes the lack of clarity in the Biden administration's stance on Ukraine and the need for a clear strategy to address the conflict. Shapiro also addresses the debate over Israel's aid in the bill, highlighting concerns about supporting a democratic ally against terrorist groups like Hamas. He criticizes the isolationist right and the left's sympathy towards Palestinian terrorism, emphasizing the importance of supporting Israel in its fight against terrorism. Shapiro references Tucker Carlson's interview with Vladimir Putin at the Kremlin. He commends Tucker for allowing Putin to speak and present his views, even though he disagrees with Putin's stance on Ukraine. Shapiro notes that Putin missed an opportunity to make a stronger argument in the interview, focusing on historical justifications for Russian control over Ukraine. Shapiro raises questions about Tucker's beliefs regarding Putin and foreign policy, highlighting the implications of the interview for the Republican Party's stance on foreign policy. He discusses the different perspectives within the party, including isolationism, foreign policy realism, and interventionism, and the need for clarity in defining the party's foreign policy approach. Shapiro discusses a viral clip of Tucker Carlson praising Moscow's development and comparing it favorably to cities in the United States. He notes Carlson's admiration for Moscow's cleanliness, safety, and aesthetics, contrasting it with his father's experience in the city in the 1980s. Shapiro questions the ideological implications of Carlson's comments and emphasizes the importance of concrete realities in shaping public perception of foreign countries. Tucker's comments on leadership take a controversial turn when he suggests a moral equivalence between American and Russian governance. He argues that every leader, including the American president, engages in killing people, and that censorship is prevalent in both countries. Shapiro challenges this notion, pointing out the stark differences in freedom of speech and political dissent between the two nations. He questions Tucker's radicalization by Moscow's model of governance and emphasizes the importance of upholding American values like liberty. The conversation shifts to Vladimir Putin's actions in Ukraine, with Tucker suggesting that Russia has no territorial ambitions in Poland. Shapiro counters this claim by citing statements from Russian officials, including Dmitry Medvedev, who have expressed hostile intentions towards Poland. He highlights Russia's historical aggression in Eastern Europe and the expansion of NATO as a response to check Russian ambitions. Shapiro questions Tucker's stance on inviting Russia into NATO, as it could lead to internal conflicts within the alliance. Tucker's views on America's role in the Israel-Gaza conflict also come under scrutiny. He criticizes the U.S. for vetoing efforts to stop the violence, equating it to a father allowing his children to fight. Shapiro challenges this analogy, pointing out that Hamas, a designated terrorist group, cannot be equated with Israel, an American ally. He questions Tucker's characterization of America as evil for supporting Israel's defense against Hamas attacks. The conversation takes a historical turn as Tucker discusses America's actions during World War II, particularly the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. He condemns these acts as collective punishment and argues that they have morally corrupted the West. Shapiro counters this argument by highlighting the strategic necessity of these bombings to end the war and prevent further casualties. He emphasizes the distinction between collateral damage in war and deliberate collective punishment,